Taxation, GST and Remedial Matters Bill, committee stage.
I declare the House and Committee for the consideration of the Taxation, GST and Remedial Matters Bill. Mr Chairman.
Mr Speaker. Members, the House and Committee on the Taxation, GST and Remedial Matters Bill. The question is that Part 1 stand part. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Chairman, oftentimes when members begin their speech they say, I rise to do so-and-so, I rise to support the bill. Actually this morning I'm just saying I rise because with the kind of cold I've got I'm feeling like that's an achievement in itself. Assisted, I must say, by Sudafed. Assisted by Sudafed, which means I probably wouldn't be on my feet once the next bunch of legislation is through. But I am particularly happy to take a call, in all seriousness, Mr Chairman, because we are witnessing today a most grievous abuse of the parliamentary process. This bill, this tax bill, was an innocuous little remedial bill which was agreed by unanimous consent at first reading and by all parties around the table at the FEC. It tidied up a few tax glitches. The only thing that was strange about it, Mr Chairman, was there was so little in it, which seemed like a bit of a mystery. Zero rating some farm transactions was about as far as it went. Now the truth is revealed. The whole point of this bill was the 70-page SOP dropped on this House last night, which is a fundamental change to an area of tax law that involves $2.3 billion a year of tax write-offs. That minister once stood for the sensible, decent middle, and he should be ashamed that he is presiding over an abusive parliament like we are witnessing today. And for mum and dad out there, what has happened is the government is introducing most of this bill after it's supposedly had its only chance to go to a select committee and after you, the public, have had your chance to have a say on a bill that affects over $2 billion a year of your taxes. Over $2 billion a year of your taxes is affected, and this government wouldn't let you see it before steamrolling it through, not you, Mr. Chairman, but the public, before steamrolling it through with midnight sittings just before Christmas. What are they ashamed of? Well, I will tell the House what they are ashamed of, which is the sham that is the look-through company. I want to tell people a little story, a true story. I once looked at renting a boat. I went to a company in downtown Auckland at Westhaven, and it showed me around some nice boats I could rent. And I said, gee, they're nice, but they're expensive on a per-day rate. He said, oh, that's easy. You just form an LAQC and put it through that. I said, what's an LAQC? They said, a loss attributing qualifying company. I said, that can't be legal. They said, yes, it is. You're only going to take a client out on it once, and you can write the whole cost off as a tax loss against your personal income. I said, you've got to be kidding. It's a pleasure craft. They said, don't matter. It's an LAQC. You can run a loss on the company and write it off against your personal income. Ah, well, there might have been some good reasons for starting that, and to be fair, it started under the previous Labor government, but it has mushroomed. And in 2008, there was $2.3 billion of tax loss written off against LAQCs. Here's what they include. They include a massive stock of rental property. Rental property, which was the main reason we had the global financial crisis bubble come to New Zealand. The main reason small businesses can't borrow was because we have a national private debt equal to 90% of our gross domestic product, most of which went through the banking system into rental property. Why did that happen? Because there was a tax incentive. What was the tax incentive? You could run a loss on an LAQC and write that loss off, not only meaning you paid no tax in the company, but you paid No personal tax either, because you write it off against your personal income. No wonder we had a property bubble. And now that that has been unmasked, in the 2 years this government's been in office, what have they done about it? Nothing. Well, they've replaced, effectively, LAQCs with a new creature, sanitised by the fancy pants lawyers and accountants that serves their clients and donors, called look-through companies. And those new things still allow you to write off company losses against your personal income because they look through to your personal income tax rate. And how are they doing this travesty? For that $2.3 billion of tax loss. They are doing it in the dead of night in an SOP, Mr. Chairman, that has not gone to a select committee, that no accountant, no lawyer...
Can I just remind the member, Part 1 is about goods and services tax. It's not about LAQCs, so I'll just remind the member to come back to the substance of Part 1. David Cunliffe.
Mr. Chairman, you will forgive me, I hope, for my genuine outrage about the process that has been employed here. Mr. Chairman, the first part of the bill is about goods and services tax, you're quite right. And we all know that National's been putting that up in a terrible regressive tax move from 12.5% to 15%. And we also know from statistics released by Statistics New Zealand and confirmed this very week by Treasury that as a result of the tax changes in the last year, the average household is now $28 a week worse off, the average individual $17 a week worse off. That's the average. The median is worse than that. But I'm going to spare some of my comments about GST, of which there will be many, Mr. Chairman, for some subsequent calls, because what I mainly want to ram home in this opening call is that there is a terrible travesty of parliamentary process happening today with this GST bill, because it is a train that has left the station innocuously and has received so far unanimous support at the Select Committee, until the main carriages were attached last night in the dead of night in a 70-page SOP that does something completely irrelevant to the first half of the bill. That isn't going to Select Committee, that isn't going to have public submissions, that affects $2.3 billion of tax income and has the potential to perpetuate the distortions of the tax system that led to the property bubble that have absolutely euchred this economy. They once, Mr. Chairman, thought that they were the party of business. Well, they do not represent real business here, because real business is being screwed over by property magnates in this bill. That is what is happening, and the fact that it is happening without proper parliamentary scrutiny is an absolute travesty. I imagine that officials in their heart of hearts are deeply ashamed, because they know that tax bills go through this House every couple of months, and there is no reason on God's green earth why these look-through company changes could not have been attached to the next train leaving the station, not this one, and could have had a proper Select Committee scrutiny. And this is a very, very serious matter, because this avoidance problem is at the absolute heart of what is wrong with New Zealand's tax system. It is at the absolute heart of the perverse incentives that mean we spend too much bidding up each other's house prices and adding David Bennett's 2.5 extra cents to the GST. We have got an absolute travesty in this bill. A process travesty, a travesty of substance, a missed opportunity. Mr. Chairman, the best that can be said is that it's a missed opportunity. And I want to say in this opening call that Labor is now going to oppose the entire bill on the basis of this travesty of process. Because what is in this illegitimate supplementary order paper is far more important than the minor technical amendments that were in the so-called main bill. This changes the whole point of this legislation from decent, remedial tidy-up to the perpetuation of a fundamental structural flaw in our tax system. That is wrong. It is wrong in substance, it is wrong in process, and it is a goddamn shame that the otherwise worthy work that we all drew attention to in the first reading speeches has been washed down the toilet by a government that not only doesn't care about democracy, but is deliberately abusing the democratic process. Why? It can only be asked